This is Mark Laughlin, living on the raggedy edge. This is episode 3 in our electromagnetic pulse geomagnetic disturbance video series. And in this episode, we're going to look at the Emp Shield, their version that's meant to be portable for like camping in RVs and that kind of thing. And so it comes with this. This adapter to give you 6 outlets on it, and I'm going to repurpose that and use that elsewhere. And then we also it came with the standard like indoor cover plate with this just open plugs on here, and it's actually very lightly, you can actually peel the edge up on the cover plate, so it's not exactly waterproof. Up to this part of the device, we're at NEMA 4 waterproofing and environmental protection. And so by adding a residential outdoor cover plate like this, that gets us to NEMA 3R, which is pretty waterproof. And I think what this is really meant to be for is like out camping, to hook up your RV and protect it against an EMP or GMD. I think this makes more sense. I'm not sure why it doesn't come this way. I mean, this cover plate was only like $4 at the hardware store, so I think that's a much better solution for the intent. The way I look at it is, if you want additional outlets, you're going to use an extension cord off of these 2 outlets here and have splitters on those, like an extension cord with a 3-way splitter. And so if you had 2 extension cords, each with 3-way splitters, you end up with 6 outlets. Now for us, with our RV, we have a 50 amp connection for our RV. A lot of RVs are 30 amp, and campsites, is typically 30 to 50 amp is your choice. So this really is not to help you out much when you're connected to 50 or 30 amp service, because it's basically just your standard 110, 15 to 20 amp outlets. So but for us, this actually works okay, because we spend about 60% of our time boondocking, so we're not connected to shore power generally anyway. And then about probably 30% of the other time we're spent at mooch docking or driveway docking at friends and families. And oftentimes in those cases, all we have access to is a 15 amp 110 connection, and so this is great for that. And we're probably only maybe 10% of the time in our RV are we actually at a campground with 30 or 50 amp connections. So I feel like we're pretty well protected. But for those who are routinely connected to 30 or 50 amp service, the ones that people who spend a lot of time in the campgrounds, you might want to ask Emp Shield to create a better suited solution just for you. I think a better suited solution would be one that's actually mounted in the bay here. And so that's going to have to be specific to whether you have 50, 30 or 15 amp service. But I would like to have a connection device that's like wired in, where I wire in just right before my automatic switch that handles the transfer of power between shore power and my generator. And so I would like to have this device connected right next to that switch. There's a couple reasons. One is that it's out of the weather, so it's pretty well protected, and we don't have to worry about this stuff here, these weatherproof connections here. And the other is that that also allows some protection, because I've got a 25-foot cord extended out here, and then we've got another 25 feet of this big heavy 50 amp power cord. So I could have 50 feet of power cord spooled out to make our connection, and that's 50 feet that could be the antenna to draw the EMP in and to harm my devices. So having the connection here would help protect me against this long antenna of my power cord. And then sometimes I'm running these two big power cords, these two 50 amp power cords, plus an extension cord of up to say 50 feet. So sometimes I'm 100 feet away from my outlet. So And in which case this works fine on that end of it, but that's, you know, almost 100 feet of antenna for an EMP to generate and reach my coach. One thing I do think is that I know a lot of comparably priced RV electric management systems that are kind of like surge suppressors, but also detect for faulty wiring, that kind of stuff, have provisions to lock or secure, you know, these fairly expensive devices from theft. Now this doesn't have any, I mean, I guess I could run maybe a little tiny cable lock through one of the hose on these things here. I think the advantage though that the EMS Shield does have is that being that it looks more like just standard electrical boxes, these and conduit here, it doesn't look like a Southwire EMP Shield or Progressive Industries electric management system. So it doesn't look like an expensive device sitting out there, you know, strapped to your campsite electric post. Now I do presume that this protects my electric switch, my battery charger, my breaker box, and any devices that are, you know, plugged into 110 within my coach. So that's kind of nice to have that kind of security against an EMP and a geomagnetic disturbance. And you know, in thinking of EMP and GMD, you know, from a end of the world as we know it kind of perspective, maybe, you know, protecting this, you know, the 110 power outlets and devices in my coach are, you know, they're definitely not as important as simply just protecting the chassis engine for mobility, which we've already done that in episode 2. We've installed an EMP Shield for our chassis motor on our motor coach. Now this is considered to be like a portable solution. Now I presume that if you have the EMP Shield for your house, you know, it's on kind of right next to your breaker box, protecting your whole house, that then if you're connecting to your, you know, your RV to an outdoor outlet that's on that house circuit, then I presume it would be protected. And, you know, again, if you have a long power cord, maybe that's an antenna for drawing in an EMP. There are plenty of electric management systems available in the RV industry, either portable or hardwired right in here next to like your automatic switch, that do surge suppression as well as test and secure against miswired outlets. Products like Southwire, Surge Guard, and the Progressive Industries electric management systems. Now if I was one of these two outlets, I would look at buying EMP Shield to add it to my stable of offerings. Now, so I think number one is the EMP Shield model DC12V/W to protect your bug out engine power plant so that you maintain mobility. That should be top priority. Now then think of risk analysis. Like if we're thinking of an EMP Shield versus just a standard RV surge suppressor. Now there is the more probable risk of damage to, say, some appliances or maybe your TV or computer or whatever from a power surge versus, say, a lower risk but high consequence of loss of vehicle if you have an EMP or GMD, and that's what this is designed to protect you against. Given the waning magnetosphere, do not underestimate the latter. The E1, E2, and E3 energized pulses of an EMP is a different animal from just a simple electric system surge. So another thing, as I would, beyond protecting the power plant of my bug out vehicle, is I would look at adding the DC12VW for family members' vehicles to preserve their ability to get home after an EMP GMD, so they can get home and then board and share your bug out vehicle. Then beyond protecting your vehicle's mobility, then consider doing an EMP Shield for solar power systems, your bug out RV, you know, the 110 volt system, your genset, If they have electric starters versus say a pull start, as I understand it, you don't need one of these if you don't need an EMP shield if you have a pull start genset. But if you have an onboard genset like we do that has electric starter, I gather that you need an EMP shield to protect that if you want to preserve your genset. Now the other thing is you might want to preserve communication. So if you have a ham radio on board your RV or your bug out vehicle like we do, then you'll want an EMP shield that will protect from the antenna side to protect your ham radio or single sideband radio system. One limiting downside is that you can't run, I guess, this the EMP Shield RV version if on a GFCI outlet like what we have here. And so that kind of limits you a bit in the fact that you know, most places I just can't go, hey, I need to change out your outlet, you know, whether it's a campground or a friend's house that I'm visiting. So that is a pretty big limiting factor in the usefulness of this. And I wonder if you had an EMP shield hardwired into our power locker, I wonder if that would have the same issue. I don't know. That could be a problem. So in review, I think this is a fine start for a portable RV EMP shield. I think though a better solution, if you're going to do portable, it needs to have the ability to do an offering for 50 amp, 30 amp, and then these standard 15 amp circuits. I would also like to see a version that's available to just actually hardwire right before, right as it enters into your coach or your motorhome or your RV travel trailer or whatever. So that would be nice to do it that way as well. But like I said, primary concern is to protect your mobility. Then we can look at kind of preserving some of your electric devices within your bug out device. Now, of course, if we truly do have an EMP or a geomagnetic disturbance that's like the end of the world as we know it, some of the features, you know, some of the functions of modern society are not going to probably continue. So having a TV maybe not so important anymore. Maybe that computer is not so important to protect if you don't have an internet access anymore, or you know, just a lot of things that just, you know, you're not going to have maybe a long-term viability unless you have a, you know, good confidence that the services are going to be restored pretty quickly, which from what we gather from the words of Vincent Pry or say suspicious observers, Ben Davidson, those we're probably going to be going back to kind of a Stone Age type society. So basically the bug out vehicle is to get you away from the unprepared, to get you some distance between you and your family and the unprepared who become desperate. This is Mark Laughlin, living on the raggedy edge. Please like, share, and subscribe. Check out the description below for links to various EMP Shield products, and also I'll include links also to some of the standard conventional RV surge suppressors as well. Thanks for watching.